All right, so right now we're going to talk about battle drills. Okay, so when you think about battle drills, these are things that are basically, if you want to connect it to other things, I'd say like this is the groundwork. It's really the individual soldier techniques to really get familiar with the battle drills. Well, they're going to be trained on these things, but it's on them to really know when they're going to apply these things, which scenarios they're actually applying these things to. I want to say is really like the groundwork, the basics for when you're actually doing missions, when you're actually on the offense and the defense, what you as a leader expect to have trained your soldiers to do, to where they're really to execute. These are really split-second decisions that they should already have instilled in them, and they already know exactly what to do in this scenario. In block A, block B, they know how to react to this. So when we talk about battle drills, these are really things that when you go into your planning, you're taking the chance to know that, hey, all of these people that I have in here in this huddle with me as a PL, so you have your squad leaders, your PSG, everyone in there in this huddle with you, you're thinking about, hey, everyone in here should know these already, and their soldiers individually should know these already from a leader standpoint, to where you don't have to focus on that during the planning phase. You're really just instilling the rest of your execution and how you want things done for your mission set to be executed. So as we start to dive into battle drills, here's what we're going to focus on today. So first and foremost, we're going to think about the 5 main areas of emphasis for all battle drills. So that is 1, shoot; 2, move; 3, communicate; 4, survive; 5, adapt. So when you think about shoot, obviously the first thing that you're being taught is if you're taking fire, return fire back. What you want to get is that suppressive fire right away. When we talk about move, you're not standing still. You're not going to be a sitting duck. You're using your instinct to move to that cover and concealment, to move around. Once you stay still, that's how you die. Communicate. So as a PL, PSG, you're always communicating with higher. So if you're, once we dive into the rest of the battle drills, you'll see how that goes in. But you're always communicating with higher, relaying messages of what's going on. Survive. So with that, you're adapting to everything. Survive and adapt kind of go the same. Where when you're surviving, you're executing these battle drills, and then you're going along to execute different battle drills within the same battle drill, to where the flow of the mission, no matter what happens, still can continue, so you can still operate and know that each individual soldier is getting taken care of, is surviving, is doing what they need to do in that exact moment, to where the mission is not going to fail. So with that, the battle drills that we're going to focus on today is first, react to contact, react to indirect fire, react to an ambush dismounted when it's near, react to an ambush dismounted when it is far, establishing security at the halt, and requesting medevac. So for the first one that we're going to talk about is react to contact. Okay? Hopefully you can see this. Okay, so react to contact. When we talk about react to contact, okay, so like really when you want to think about it, react to contact is when, okay, say we're on a movement and we're conducting a movement to contact, right? So you're given a point and you need to get to that point, and it's in a certain AO, a certain EA engagement area that you're going to go to, right? So when you're at that point, you're making that movement with your formation as the PL. This is react to contact is when you're expecting fire, and then boom, you take that fire, right? So the first thing we're going to think about is the element in contact immediately returns fire. So when we think about that in the illustration, you can see if this is the formation that the platoon is moving in, this first infantry squad right here, as you can see marked by the symbol, is the one that takes contact, right? So what we're going to say is that this is the first element taking fire. So what they're going to do is they're going to return fire. And then soldiers not in contact, they're going to get to a cover and concealed position, which by terrain, this would be the other elements getting to those positions, right? Those were signified by the movement arrows. And then from there, leaders engage known enemy positions with fire and pass on to the PL and PSG. So these squad leaders would all be in communication back with the PL and PSG by first relaying that fire back, and then once they're in position, communicating with the PL, saying what they have eyes on, and getting to know next, what do we do now? So then from there, the PL will move to a covered or concealed position to quarterback. So when I talk about quarterback, that's where you as a PL, you are looking at the situation and you are thinking, hey, how many people are there? Well, look at this. It's an enemy infantry squad, right? So if you think about the one-thirds rule, right? So in the ratio, if we have 3 to 1 men, then we should be fine in this scenario. With this, we have an entire platoon for an infantry squad. So as we quarterback, that is you as the PL looking at it and saying, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. From there, The PL will determine if platoon can gain, maintain suppressive fires with the squad in contact. So with that initial squad in contact, but then even on here as the PL, what you could do is while you're quarterbacking, while they're moving up to those positions of concealment, lucky with here, they'd all be in line with the terrain already. Well, by then you get all your elements online to where you control the fires, because think about that. You have 3 squads ready to engage on 1 squad. So then from there, the PL confirms the commander's criteria, meaning so you know the commander's rules of engagement, and you know what the commander deemed as what you can see as that PL, as that quarterback, to make that decision. Okay, so I see the amount that we are going against. I have identified all the enemy that we are going against. Do I have the men for this? Do I have the power to fight on and get through this? So then from there, you are going to either move out of the EA, the engagement area. So by that, if you looked at it and deemed it, no, we cannot fight this force, we need to get out of here and retreat, then that's what you do. Or you're going to conduct an assault. So we'll dive into that later, but either way, so with the elements you have, you're going against an infantry squad, right? So with that, you have an entire platoon. So because this first squad took contact and they're this line of suppressive fire, what you can do is leave one of these squads here online with him to keep that fire. And then what you can do is either flank here or flank the other direction. You as the quarterback, as the PL, you're making that decision, right? So you can choose to flank. It's either New York or California, right? New York being the East Coast, meaning right. California being the West Coast, meaning left. So you, as the PL, you can call that out and get them to flank right or left. And then that way you have a line of suppressive fire and then another attacking force right here. So then from there, the PL reports the situation and maneuvers the platoon, which is what I just said. But on the same token, you need those reports back. You need to be able to contact higher up and let them know what is going on and let them know what you have told your men to do. And that is reactive contact. All right, so now we're going to talk about reacting to indirect fire. So when we think about reacting to indirect fire, I'll give you an example for this one. So again, these are things that are really reactions, right? So when we think about reacting to indirect fire, so when you go to CST, they're either going to have the little things that simulate the sound, or they're going to, like the little whistle. So it sounds like artillery coming from up top, you're getting hit from up top, right? So with that, there are certain steps that each individual soldier should be able to know so that they can react just as quick as possible. Because in that scenario, you want to get everyone off that X, you want to get everyone out of that area and get back to whatever plan you have, right? So as the PL, my suggestion is that when you're in that planning phase before you leave that to step off to that mission, right? So what you're going to do is there's something called a black and gold plan. So when you have these black and gold plans, that is why during the mission, you can call out black, 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 and your entire platoon should be able to relay that to each other, and everyone is going to understand what the word black means, right? Or gold, right? So you're either going to call black, 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 or gold, 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 right? So these gives you 2 options, right? This gives you something to give a direction, a distance, and a location, right? That gives each individual soldier in the platoon the awareness of where they're going to go in this scenario of indirect fire or whenever else you're going to call the black and gold plan, right? So with that, you're going to get those locations approved in that planning phase from higher up, right? You're going to call those points in and you're going to say, hey, is this a good area? Once you get that approved, then you're going to relay that message that, hey, this is the black and gold plan. And what you're going to do is you're going to give an azimuth. And then what you're going to do is give that estimated distance and then the point. So everyone could have that on them right in that planning phase. So then when you step off, everyone already knows that black and gold plan. All right, so to dive into indirect fire, right? So it's going to begin when any squad member alerts incoming, right? So when they're saying incoming, it's like incoming, like it's loud. You want your entire platoon to be able to hear that and relay it, and everyone's going to shout out, right? So then soldiers are immediately going to drop to the ground, right? So you're going to drop to the ground, hands over the head, whoop-de-whoop. And when you're at CST, everyone drop to the ground, all right? If someone doesn't drop to the ground, they're going to call them off and say that they're dead. So then you're going to follow the commands and actions of the leaders, right? So when everyone is in that moment, the squad leaders are going to relay to the platoon and the platoon sergeant, PL and PSG. They're going to want to know, hey, so what do we do in this instant, right? So then in that, you're going to seek the appropriate cover. You're going to avoid the impact area if you're not already on it. And then when it says to run in the direction away from incoming fire, that is where as a PL, you're automatically making that decision of calling out black, 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 or go, gold. So depending where you are in your mission, it might help to either go to the black location or the gold location, right? Or you're going to yell out back to the patrol base where it's another known location that your rest of your platoon knows, right? So then from that, you're going to run away and then you're going to assess the situation, right? You're going to reconsolidate. Everyone's going to get there, have your PSD, taking accountability, saying, hey, do we have everyone? Are we up? Squad members, are we up? Platoon, is my platoon up? So then from there, you're going to report to hire and they're going to tell you whether or not to continue the mission. Usually at CST, when we took IDF, it was usually when people were on the X for too long or the mission wasn't going right. So usually that's how it was. But in real life, you're going to report that and their higher up is going to tell you what to do. So that's reacting to indirect fire. The next battle drill we're going to talk about is reacting to an ambush while dismounted, and it's going to be while near, meaning the enemy is within hand grenade range, which is around 35 meters. Okay, so please note that it begins when the unit is moving tactically in close terrain and the enemy initiates contact with the most casualty producing weapon or detonation of explosives and a high volume of well-aimed fire from covered and concealed positions. So think about this. If prior to this you already know how to conduct an ambush, you know that there's a kill zone, right, that you designated by 2 TRPs. Really think of a road, right? So if we're on one light pole, boom, I have TRP 1, TRP 2. And then we have the middle of the road in between those, and we're behind cover behind that, we're designating that the kill zone. So then us planning, we're already like, okay, well, when they reach a certain point in this kill zone, when they pass TRP 1, then boom, we're going to lay down fire as our ambush. So what we're saying is that we're instead that body that is conducting that movement into that kill zone. So from that, here are the steps to react to that ambush. So first, the teams or squads in the kill zone are going to either execute A or B. A being to automatically return fire, and if cover is not available, without order or signal, they're going to immediately assume the prone position and throw smoke grenades. And then B, automatically return fire, and then if cover is available, without order or signal, they're going to occupy the nearest cover position, get in the prone, and then throw smoke grenades. So really the point of emphasis is that first element, that first squad that really takes contact out of the platoon, they're going to, boom, return fire and then employ those smoke grenades as fast as they can. So then 2, teams or squads in the kill zone will then assault through the ambush position. Team squads not in the kill zone then ID the enemy location and place well-aimed suppressive fire and shift as squad assaults through. And then the squad will assault through and destroy the enemy position, and the PL reports the contact to higher headquarters. So with that, we have this, right? Okay, so as you can see, this is the platoon conducting a movement, right? So then once we get here, we're in the enemy's kill zone, hence why they're placing fire on this squad in the middle, right? So then, boom, from there, all elements in the kill zone are going to return fire. So without having to draw it again, it would be all 3 squads right here, the PO and PSG, they're directing, boom, you're just returning fire onto this enemy, right? So then from there, like we talked about, the squad in contact, boom, they're returning fire, and then that PL is going to communicate that he is going to move with that assaulting element, that assaulting squad, through onto the enemy, right? So then that PSG, he's going to stay with that other element that we have the eyes on. We properly ID the enemy. We know where they are to where we can lay clear suppressive fire. But then the PSG is there to direct it, with this being the support by fire line now, if you want to use that term, right? So this is that line of suppression as this other element assaults through. That PSG is staying behind and they're directing those fires so then he can shift those fires away, right? So from here, like we talked about, this would be flanking from the right, right? We would call out that New York, right? So we're flanking from the right, they know that, so they're going to shift those fires away as we assault through and then destroy them, right? And then this was that react to an ambush when it's near, being in the hand grenade distance of 35 meters. Battle drill we're going to go into is reacting to the ambush dismounted again, but this time from afar, which is meaning greater than the 35 meters, which is that hand grenade distance, right? So with this, you're further back, right? You have more of a distance on your side to utilize that, right? So again, same scenario as we said in the last part. You're with your platoon, you're making that movement, you end up in the kill zone of an enemy's ambush, right? And then boom, this is what you automatically go into, right? So the team squads that are in that direct fire are going to return fire automatically, right? Seek cover and place well-aimed suppressive fire on the enemy. Then the squad leader or PL leading those teams or squads not receiving fire along a covered, concealed route to enemy's flank to assault, right? So what that means is those first squad elements that are taking that contact, right? Obviously, everyone is returning that fire, but then with that, again, like we said, those other elements, we're gonna lead them to the assault positions to where we can flank left to right, right? So then with that, the teams and squads that are in that kill zone, they're gonna shift those suppressive fires as the assaulting soldiers fight through. So when you think of the last one, this is really just the same exact thing, right? But with this, we go into that next step, right? The PL can then call for and adjust for indirect fire. So when we think of that, we're going to think about call for fire and adjusting fires. That could be for another video to where I can go more in depth. But that is why we're in that distance to where we're not danger close to where we could actually call for those fires if approved by higher and we're on that priorities of fires. Then we could actually utilize that and then destroy that enemy position because we're far enough to actually safely execute that. And then lastly, the PL is obviously going to report that same incident. So for the illustration, I would just refer to the last one and think about then again this added distance and being able to utilize the fires at hand. All right, the next battle drill we're going to go over is establishing security at the halt. So when we talk about at the halt, right, so that's when we're walking in formation, right, and then the hand signal that gets relieved to all of us is this, right? So that hand is up, everyone's copying that back, echoing it up and down the formation, right? So we're here, we're at a halt, and then even if they want to, they could call that freeze, right? The difference between the halt and the freeze, the halt, everyone's getting there, getting to a stop position, waiting for that next signal. And then that freeze, as soon as you see it, you don't move a muscle, right? So then, okay, so look, let's get into it, right? So first, the platoon conducts a halt, right? So we all get that hand signal, right? We're all echoing it up and down the formation. Then the PL gives the order to stop the movement and establish security in a designated formation. And if you are mounted, which means you're in a vehicle, which when you go to CST, you think about ROTC, Cadet land, you're really never mounted. But for mounted, the PO will give the order over the radio to stop movement and establish security in a designated formation. And then B, for dismounted, the PL gives hand and arm signal to halt and establish security in a designated formation. 3, the platoon will establish local security. 4, the vehicle commander or the squad leader will adjust the positions as necessary. And 5, the PO will report, right? So when we're thinking about battle drills, right? So think about a move into contact, really. So we're executing a mission, but we still have to actually move to get to that mission, right? So we're in formation, and as that PO, you're going through, say you get something over the radio, you get something called back over the radio from that first squad leader, it goes down and it gets to the PO, right? So from there, at CST, think of you as a PL and you just stop and make that decision, right? You're going to call that halt, and you could even freeze, and you can tell everyone to get down. And then from there, you want them to establish their security, right? So then when you want to think about this, think about the different formations we can use, right? So with that, we have, like I've drawn out for you, we have 2, for example, right? A platoon column and then a platoon wedge, right? So notice the differences in how these are, right? So when you think about that wedge compared to that column, right? So we use these for different terrains that we could be traveling through. So say we're in a highly dense wooded area, right? We're going to use this column so that the way the formation sticks together, right? So in here, you can see the PL and the PSG are in the middle of formation split between the 3 squads, right? So with that, you might be like, hey, what's up with the 4 squads? So think about that 4 squad being that weapon squad, which is divvied up in between, right? So with that, we still have that lead squad in the middle with the PL following that first squad. Boom, the squad in the middle, then the PSG following that with the medic in the bind, and then the rear squad, right? So like I said, you can see like the divvy up between men. That is to keep the most security in position to where you can react to anything from this, right? That is that maintaining 360 security the entire time. So then when you think about a wedge, right? Say we're traveling in a less dense area, we're traveling like a large amount of space, we're trying to do this faster, and we're moving in this wedge, right? So that PL and PSG are here, right, with the 3 squads spread out like this, right? So wherever we take contact from, all these squads are able to react to that contact, and boom, say we took contact here, these squads can flank, come up online, same here, right? So then when we think about halting, getting into that defense, right? Say we're in these different terrains, right? Say we're in this way more or less dense terrain, and then the platoon leader wants to establish 360 security, right? So what he can do is he can already halt, right? And then we're already a little spread out to where he can just disperse and spread us out to where we get to cover, and then we line up this 360 security to where it's covered, right? And then boom, headquarters in the middle. And then here, it's similar to where you already have a squad in the north and the south, right? So then what you can do is boom, you halt, you want to establish 360 security, right? You can bring these squads closer in, right, and condense that third squad more out. So what we establish as 360 security and headquarters is still there in the middle, right? So in the sense of security, right, we're thinking of 360 security to where in any direction, wherever we could take contact from, it's all covered, right? So that is establishing security at the halt, which again is that hand signal, right? All right, so now as we get into that last battle drill, right, we're going to be talking about requesting medical evacuation, right? So when we think about medevac, right, we're really thinking about 9 lines, okay? So like I referenced on the board as one of the sources, right, we're talking about the Ranger Handbook, right? So in the Ranger Handbook, it includes this 9-line medevac form, right? So what that 9-line is that it gives you all the information that you need to report up to get that bird in the air and to get that bird to get one of your Joes off the ground when they're injured or hurt, right? So with that, we'll think about this. So there's 9 lines, okay? So line 1, location to pickup site, right? So each of these individual lines is going to have that brevity code, right? That letter that signifies something, okay? So line 1 is going to be the location of the pickup site, right? Grid coordinates of the pickup site should be sent by secure communication to prevent confusion. The grid zone letters are included in the message, right? Okay, so line 2 is the radio frequency, call sign, and suffix. Frequency of the radio at the pickup site, not a relay frequency. The call sign and suffix, if used, a person to be contacted at the pickup site may be transmitted in the clear. Okay, so you think about lines 1 and 2, these can really be pre-filled. Think of it like Mad Libs, right? So when you get an actual 9-line card, you want to actually be able to fill these in Here, let me get a 9-line card for y'all. So when you think about the 9-line card, right, you want to be able to have something on hand to really fill out right away so that in that case of emergency, when something actually happens, it's already filled out. So look here, right? So look, this is my medevac request form, right? And then it has all 9 lines, right? So then that way, when I'm in the actual mission, when I'm actually assigned to do something like say or CST, right? A lot of this can almost already be filled out. So that way, in the heat of the moment, there's only certain rest things that you need to fill out. And then boom, you go from there. So then again, as the individual soldier task, like you want each soldier to really retain that information and be able to fill those out so that no matter who goes down, anyone can really send up that 9-line, right? But ideally, you want that medic and PSG reporting that up. So then with that, right? So then as you continue, line 3, number of patients by precedence. This is where we get into the brevity codes, right? A, alpha being urgent. B, bravo being urgent, meaning surgery. C, Charlie being priority. D, delta being routine. And E, echo being convenience. Sorry, fuck me. Okay, if 2 or more categories must be reported in the same request, insert the word break between each category, right? So then that's when you're filling out that 9-line for real, and then you go by those brevity codes to actually look at the casualty you're looking at and say, what do they actually need, right? So then as we go into that's line 4, okay? Special equipment required, right? A, alpha, meaning none. B, bravo, being a hoist. C, Charlie being extraction equipment, and D, delta being a ventilator, right? So again, I can do another video to really deep dive into the 9 lines and really go into what you need for that. But all of these go along with the actual casualty that you're assessing, right? You're not doing anything except for TCCC and then filling out a 9-line card, right? You're not in charge of actually performing that life-saving procedure on that Joe, but your job is to really assess the situation and assess what is at hand to get the right equipment, the right intel to those people that can come and actually do their job, right? So then from that, line 5, number of patients by type, report only applicable information and encrypt the brevity code. If requesting medical evacuation for both types, insert the word break between the litter entry and ambulatory entry. So again, if there are patients by litter or ambulatory, right? So when they talk about using the word break, so when we're actually doing those radio calls up, so in between lines, if you have to say something new, it is just that radio etiquette to say break in between so that person on the other end understands that there's something new coming, right? Again, that could be discussed in another video. So then line 6, during wartime, is the security of the pickup site with brevity codes. In November, no enemy troops in area. P, Papa, possible enemy troops in the area, approach with caution. E, Echo, enemy troops in area, approach with caution. or X-ray, enemy troops in area, armed escort required. So when you're thinking about that, you're a CST, right? You're going to call up that line because that is telling the bird what they need to bring in the air and how to approach it, right? And then in peacetime, number and type of wound, injury, or illness for line 6. Specific information regarding patient wounds by type, gunshot or shrapnel, report serious bleeding and blood type if not. Okay, and then we dive into line 7 through 9, right? So line 7 being the method of marking the pickup site, all right? So A, alpha panels, B, Bravo, pyrotechnic signal, C, Charlie, smoke signal, Delta, D, Delta being 9, or E, Echo being other, right? So this is how you, as that Joe boots on the ground, how are you marking that for the bird in the air to see that and get to y'all, right? So then 8, patient nationality and status. The number of patients in each category need not to be transmitted. And then this is what goes along with it. A, Alpha being U.S. military, B, Bravo being a U.S. citizen, C, Charlie being non-U.S. military, D, Delta being non-U.S. citizen, E, Echo being an enemy POW. Then we go into line 9. Again, there's another difference between wartime and peacetime. So chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear contamination for wartime. Include this line only when applicable. C, Charlie being chemical, B, Bravo being biological, R, Romeo being radiological, and N, November being nuclear. Okay, so then we go into peacetime for its terrain description. Include details of terrain features in or around proposed landing site. If possible, describe relationship of site to prominent terrain feature like lake, mountain, or tower. Okay, so then once we go through these 9 lines, right? So you need the first 5 to get that bird into the air, right? So you call out those first line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. Break, break, break. With that, they're able to get that bird in the air and they know what to bring, right? Then you're going to say the rest of those lines, okay? So that is a 9-line medevac request, okay? So with that in closing, in this part 1 of the battle drills discussion, referencing again MS Lab 13, battle drills 1, student reading, and then the Ranger Handbook, and as well as this bad boy right here, ATP 3-21.8, Infantry, Rifle, Platoon, and Squad. This book is a blessing. There you go, the Infantry Bible right there. So much doctrine in here that is super, super necessary. So from that, we went over the fact that the 5 main areas of emphasis for all battle drills are shoot, move, communicate, survive, and adapt. All right, so as we go down the line, right, we talk about react to contact, react to indirect fire, react to ambush, dismounted, near and far, establishing security at the halt, and then requesting medevac. So when you think about those 5 points of emphasis, we're talking about shoot, right? And all of them, they reiterate the fact that when you take that contact, first fire back and then try to get suppressive fire so that you could gain and maintain fire superiority, right? Meaning that you're firing enough to where they're not firing back and you could actually make a decision, right? So then once we go into that move, right? So as that PL, you can't just freeze in the moment, right? You're expecting your Joes to know all of these battle drills to where you know them as well. So that way they can execute and then you can do the movement. You're doing the communication. You're the one placing your Joes where you need them. You're the one quarterbacking, right? So it's on you to not only train them to where they know these battle drills, but you yourself know these battle drills so they're able to execute in those split-second decisions. And then survive and adapt, right? So when we talk about survive, we're actually executing these battle drills to where, boom, we're laying down that suppressive fire, and when we're reacting contact, we actually send that assaulting flank element, right? When we're reacting to an ambush, we're reacting quickly, and then we're gaining that suppressive fire, and then boom, we're moving with that next element to assault through and actually destroy them, right? And then even when you're talking about establish security, and then with that, you're requesting a 9-line, right? With all of that, you have to be able to communicate exactly what you want done, exactly where you need your Joes to maintain security, maintain that fire superiority, and get that job done, right? So that when you think about CST, whatever mission you're conducting, right, there's going to be a movement, right? Unless you're there in a patrol base and you're conducting security, right, and you're on the defense. But when you're on the offense and you're doing that movement to your objective, right, you're going to think about these different battle drills because any one of these instances can happen during your movement to where you need to react on the fly like that on the go, right? So then too, once you get into that planning phase, these aren't really topics of discussion in the sense where you have to plan like, okay, well, what do we do if this happens? What do we do if that happens, right? That's the point of battle drills. Everyone should be on this point of understanding to where they know what to do in these scenarios that might come up to really eliminate that. What if this? What if that? Well, they know what the fuck to do in those moments, right? So that way, as the quarterback, they're already going. They're already flying, right? So again, when you think of these battle drills, just think of it as something that everyone should know. So that way, when shit hits the fan and you're ready to go and execute, and you're able to tell your drills where to go, and they'll know what to do as well.